Hi everybody, welcome to the Sherweb webinar called Create a Complete Managed Backup Offer. I am your host, Guillaume Boivin, Product Director for Security and Compliance at Sherweb. Today we'll be joined by Eric, owner of DF Technologies, and Nick Ford, and a great account executive here at Sherweb. Hi Nick.
Hi.
Hi Eric.
Hello.
So today the agenda for this short and sweet webinar is to discuss the ability to offer a complete managed backup solution using Sherweb solutions. Actually, what we'll spend the most time on is having a good chat with Eric from DF Technologies about how they develop their own managed backup offer, how it's resonating with their clients, and how Sherweb is helping them with that. And then, as with every webinar, we'd like to take as many questions as possible, answer them as much as we can. Maybe a few housekeeping notes. This webinar is recorded. Link will be sent to you. Usually it's in the next 24 hours, but this being a wonderful Friday, it'll probably be early next week. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box. That's part of the software that we're using to do this webinar. So, moving right along. I have a couple of slides for you, a little bit of information about our online backup offering. Some of you may not be as familiar with it. We wanted to make sure we took the time to just introduce it. This will only be a few minutes. So one of the main point is the simplicity of the billing. For our US partner, that is 12 cents USD per gig. That accounts for everything that I'm about to describe. There is nothing that you can do with our online backup that costs extra money. It is all just about the data that you put into the cloud. So one of the selling points as well is that you pay only for cloud storage. Using the software, you can do both local backups, network backups, and cloud backups. We wanted to keep it as simple as possible. We wanted to give you a tool with which you can build a full managed backup solution, which means that this software can do local, can do network, and can do cloud all in the same job. This allows you to really offer a complete solution. Best practice says you should do your job as your more frequent retention or copies should be local, so to allow for a quick restore without having to go to the cloud storage. But you're not really protected against proper disaster if all you have are local copies. So and best practice recommends that you have cloud storage as well. The idea with Sherweb Online Backups, you can do both with a single job. We do have demo video available that show how to do all this. We won't cover them in today's webinar, which is more about talking to one of our partners. Another thing, there is no commitment, there is no payment for licenses or device. You can have as many devices as you want and only pay for the cloud storage. On the right, you can see a quick overview of everything that's you can back up using the same software. So you can do Azure, you can do Windows, like physical Windows Server on-premise, you can do Windows PC, you can do Exchange Server, you can do MS SQL, you can do SharePoint, Active Directory, Hyper-V, and Office 365. Some of those points are noteworthy. For example, the ability to back up Office 365. That is something that a lot of our partners are using as a value-added services. The market just for cloud storage is pretty saturated. It's commoditized a little bit, so people are some of our competitors driving down the value of that. One of the ways you can combat that and make sure that you keep a higher price is by offering things like either Office 365 backup or doing, for example, mobile device, because it supports Android and iOS as well. Building around those things is a great way to increase the value of your offering. Another place where it sort of stands out is, well, a couple of places. The ability to do backups of virtual machines through the host. So if you install the agent on a VMware or Hyper-V host, you can back up all of the virtual machines without having to install the agent within the virtual machine itself. As well, if your clients are using any infrastructure as a service, including our own, but also including Amazon or Azure, you can install the agent on those virtual machines and do backup of that as well, which is always a pretty interesting premise where you make sure that you back up to an infrastructure that is not the same as the provider of the infrastructure itself. That is valid for on-premise, but it's also valid for cloud servers. So, another thing that is of note is this technology has been around for a while. It supports a vast array of versions. I mentioned Windows Server, so it starts from 2003 all the way up to 2016. Same for client version of Windows. It starts from XP and goes all the way up to 10. It's very flexible. We'll do Linux as well. Linux server, Linux workstation, doesn't matter. So, moving on from the features and capacity, let's talk about practical use. And I'm going to pass this along to my good friend Nick Ford and our good partner Eric from DF Technologies.
Thank you, Guillaume. So to kick this off, I'd like to ask Eric if you could talk a little bit about DF Technologies, yourself, how you got where you are, and basically your experience.
All right. Yeah, I've been doing this since 1992, basically when I graduated high school. I did the basics that a lot of us started, selling computers, and that got me through university. And very quickly after university, I noticed customers didn't just want to buy computers, they needed help with their computers. And I kind of started doing what's now known as MSP services way back in the early 90s there, and just kind of grew from there and never really looked back.
So then you describe your business as an MSP.
Yeah, MSP and generic consulting, help the customers with everything they need and help them not worry about computers.
Do you specialize in any specific vertical?
No, I've got a few that I tend to have more clients in. I had a bunch of government and some manufacturing as well as resource, but no one specific vertical for me.
Okay, thank you. Now, how would you differentiate yourself in the market?
Well, one of the things since '96, I have never done any marketing. I'm all word of mouth, client referral. My goal is not to be the biggest company. I just want to keep me and my guys busy and provide very good service to our clients. And we're very integrated with our clients in that we're very much a trusted provider.
Mm-hmm. So it's more like a partner to your customer in that sense.
Exactly. Actually, I like my customers to think of my employees as their employees and treat them the same.
Okay. So could you talk a little bit more about your offer as an MSP for backups?
Yeah, well, I've been doing backup actually with Sherweb from way back before in your previous product. And now with the new one, it's become even easier and more broad. So I kind of pitch it to my clients not as, hey, here's a new product, let me sell it to you. I'm like, hey, you got a lot of risk. We're going to just deal with it. And we worry about getting all their data off and backed up and keeping them secure. Especially, it's really easy now with all the news going around of all the new viruses and ransomware and all of that kind of stuff.
So that would be what you'd say your reasoning would be to a client if you're approaching them about a backup solution.
Exactly. Even those that were on our previous product, I just come to them and say, we're going to change you to the new technology because things have changed and there's more risk out there.
Okay. And do you find that you ever have any pushback from that?
No, in fact, it's the exact opposite. It's probably the easiest change I've ever brought into clients. Their usual answer is, okay, just do it.
Wonderful. And how would you say Sherweb's online backup, or I guess new online backup, right, has helped your clients?
One of the things I really like is just the simple pricing structure, which actually matched perfectly the old pricing structure I had with my clients. So even as I'm moving technology with them, I'm not changing how I'm billing them. The simplified just charging for what's in the cloud makes it really easy. And since there is no commitment, that even helps with the sales job, because even new clients, I'm like, hey, let's put it in. If you don't like it and it doesn't work, you just stop using it. And no one stopped using it yet.
And as far as the offer is concerned, right, you mentioned the pricing setup for the cloud piece of it. How are you positioning the local backups?
Well, for me, if the local backup is kept on my hardware, either soft hardware I've provided to a client or some of my clients have servers in my office, then I just charge a different per gig amount if I hold the local copy and a lower per gig amount if they hold the local copy.
Okay. So outside of price point that you just mentioned before, what would you say from a feature set is the biggest value you would say for your clients and for yourself as an MSP?
That's easily the biggest value is the fact that one piece of software is doing everything right now. The fact that I don't have to change between my clients that have big Hyper-V infrastructures the ones that are on 365, the ones that just have one local server. Everything's just in one console, one agent set, and yeah, it's easy to manage, easy to price, easy to sell. So it that way it just keeps things easier.
Okay. And now we want to know, do you have any interesting experiences when it comes to online backup and one of your clients?
Yeah, so the first client I actually used to demo the 365 when I was wanting to test out the email backup, I set it up on the weekend and let it run and back up their mailboxes. And then on Tuesday morning, I got a call that they had fired someone, and on that person's way out, they had deleted their whole mailbox because it contained a lot of important information.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very luckily, and I always say I'll take luck over skill any day, I was able to recover that whole mailbox for the client, and they were extremely pleased. And needless to say, that demo is now their production environment. Wonderful,
wonderful. Some things just work out. What was the restore process like?
It was actually really simple. In fact, it took us a while because it was too simple. We were looking for far more difficult way to do the restore, and it was go to the web page, pick the mailbox, and hit restore. Okay. And it just pushed all the data right back into 365.
So going back to one of the things that you said about ransomware, can you tell us a little bit how you sort of approached the subject with your clients and how so they reacted, or are they the one approaching that subject with you? That's something that we see more and more from our partners, is that the sort of tie-in between those wave of ransomware like the WannaCry and the Petya recently, and the need to have a completely detached infrastructure to do the backups.
Yeah, well, there's two things there. One is, I've both approached clients kind of in that, hey, this is going to happen, and a few clients have approached me before I've been able to call them. So it's happening both ways. But like I said, the discussions are really short. The big thing I stress with this solution, and the reason I picked it, is with these new ransomwares that also go after local backups, you have to be very careful that your backups go through some type of gateway that the virus itself cannot get a hold of them. So cloud is one of the easiest ways to ensure that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, initially, we went through some testing, right, you and I, regarding the online backup. You wanted to go through and try out the different features or the different devices that you could back up. So would you be able to speak to that a little bit? Let us know what you found during the testing, how that went?
Yeah, so I started with Hyper-V and 365, because those are the main things I use in the company. And everything was actually really smooth, you know. Even for a first adopter, not reading any of the documents, I was able to just power my way right through the website. You know, it was a few little learning curves where like, oh, that button doesn't do what I thought it did, but it still makes sense. You know, and if I had have read the manual, it probably would have made a lot more sense. But no, it was very straightforward. It was very easy to do. After I played with it for a bit, I actually dumped it onto one of my juniors without even giving him much background other than, here's the URL, here's our username and password, go install it on these clients.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What would be maybe, I don't know if you have a piece of advice or anything that stands out for you as far as our partner here that may not be doing any online backup or maybe doing just very light backup, local backup, like traditional things like maybe taking a copy and putting it on file server or something like that. Like, how would they go about maybe building their offer or how to approach their client about that offer?
Yeah, the biggest one is just approach them and don't sell it as backup, just sell it as security and something they really need to do. The nice thing is with the pricing, especially for this offering, it's so low that it's not particularly a hard sell. The added security, and it's not just ransomware. The fact that the software can keep older versions, you can keep some history. Even clients who like to delete things and then come back and ask for them later, you've got them covered that way. And there's other things you can do. Build your offering out, include some hardware. So clients that have, say, just one server but still need a local copy, just grab an old PC, slap a new hard drive in it, put it right beside the server, and use that to keep your local backup. The nice thing, the way this agent works, is that machine actually needs almost no power whatsoever.
Right. You can use old, almost deprecated hardware and just assign it to that. running that local copy, right?
Exactly. It's just hosting a hard drive. It just needs a network file share. The only other thing I'd suggest with the way the viruses are now is I don't put those machines on the domain, just so that there's separate security even on that local machine.
Yeah, that's good advice. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric. I mean, I think that covers the questions that we have for you here right now. So really appreciate you taking the time with us to come speak with ourselves and our partners who've joined us here today. So what I'll do now is I'll give back the control over to Guillaume, who can finish this off for us.
Thank you, Eric.
No problem.
So that gives, I think, a pretty good overview of what our partners are usually doing with our online backup product. A few of the key points to highlight would be, in this day and age, if you're not, well, let's put it that way, if your clients don't have protection as far as online backup, offsite backups, there's really something missing from their operations. And you as a trusted partner and an advisor into their, not just their IT, but the operation of their business, you should be the one that brings those kind of things up. And especially if you bring them in a way that is very non-disruptive, the implementation is very easy, the cost is very reasonable, usually that will look very good on you. One thing that I've noticed with partner in practice, and I've worked as an MSP for a long time, is that they become very reliant on you as far as restore. They will just call you up and say, hey, I'm missing that file from, like I know I had it last week, and you get it from the backup. And if you can do that for them, it's a great way to show your value to your client. So what you can see on the screen now is a whole bunch of selling points of the solution. We've covered most of them. I won't go through everything. This is not a reading exercise, but let me just highlight a couple that stand out. One of them is the control of the storage location. So using Sherweb Online Backup, you can pick whether you want your data to be hosted in the United States or Canada. I know that some of our partners have legal requirements or just even client preferences where they want their data to stay. So for example, for our Canadian partners out there, so if you pick Canada, your data will stay in Canada, never go to the US without very explicit consent and knowledge. Another thing is now you can manage all your organization from a single interface that was introduced just a couple weeks ago. This also gives you the ability to do your own branding. So directly from our portal, you can go in and change the look, colors, logo, URLs, name of the product that is referenced, and all that applies to every email and everything like that. So if it depends how you manage your things, a lot of our partners are doing completely managed, so they don't give access. The client wouldn't really see the product. But if you want to give access to your client, not only can you do it, but you can also do it in a way where the branding that they see is your own company. Another thing is the encryption of data at rest and in transit. So, of course, every connection between the agent and our data repository is done through SSL and is encrypted and all that. But as well, when you create a backup job, you can enable encryption, which is also often a requirement. This will encrypt on the client side, meaning that you pick the key. Sherweb has no idea what the key is, and we have no way to access that encrypted data. That allows you to remain compliant with a lot of requirements, for example, HIPAA in the United States and things like that, where if your service provider doesn't have any access to your data and the personal data that you manage, then there is no real concern about how they manage that data. Because even if, let's say, and believe me, we have plenty of security for that not to happen, but I'll give a very broad example. If somebody went in and stole the hard drives on which our online backup is stored, they still wouldn't get access to your data because it is encrypted. Maybe one last thing is the technology that we're using for backup is used by hundreds of thousands of businesses and trusted for a number of years. You can rest assured that it will be there for you when you need it. This is the end of this very targeted and short webinar, which was the whole point, but we will take a few moments to answer some questions. So one thing I want to address first is what to do next. So as a partner, usually you should have a partner rep. If you don't know your partner rep, you can just contact Sherweb in general and we'll direct you to that partner rep. One thing that partner representative can do for you is provide you with a free trial for the product. I think it'd be a great way to get started for all the partners that are here in our getting excited about their managed backup offering, just set up an account, talk to your partner rep, set up an account, make sure it's a trial account, and you'll be able to use it for 30 days without being charged anything. It's a good way to discover the product and make sure that it answers your need and that your use cases are well covered and they work. So I'm going to go to some of the questions that we have. Can I take bare metal installation of Windows Server and virtualize in the cloud with your backup? Yes. So I didn't go into the full technical details of everything that the solution can do. So quickly, it will do physical to virtual, it will do virtual to virtual, it will do virtual to physical, it will do cloud server from a competitor to virtual to physical. So dissimilar hardware restore is one of the big feature, big selling point, and something that we recommend using for our client. It could be, just to give you a use case, for example, if you're backing up every laptop of a company, and they have it's stolen or it's burned down or whatever it is, and you don't have another laptop ready to go, you could restore that machine as a virtual machine in the cloud and give somebody remote access from any dumb terminal, and they'll be able to get to work and get back to work very, very quickly. And there's value in the speed to restore. Question: what about UK, EU data storage location? Are they available? If not, are they on the roadmap? They are not currently available. They are on the roadmap, not short term. I don't want to venture a time frame right now. But for now, it is Canada and United States as destination for data. Can you talk about SharePoint backup? So that's a good question. The way that SharePoint backups are done is through SQL backups. So you can do the full server backup, plus you can add the SQL backup, and that's sort of how it covers SharePoint. At this time, and that's something that I skipped over quickly because trying to sort of keep this short, the O365 backups are really mailbox backups. So it will do the whole mailbox. It will do message, it will do contacts, it will do task calendars, everything that's in the mailbox, but it will not do everything else in Office 365 for now. It will not do SharePoint Online. It will not do OneDrive. It will not do CRM, for example. I can tell you that both OneDrive and SharePoint are coming for the second half of this year. Hopefully in the fall, we'll have something for you. There's a whole host more features that are coming. For example, more things around disaster recovery, more things about file sync and share. What is the version retention period? Good question. So one of the things with this backup solution is you have full control, meaning that you can choose the frequency. You can do down to every hour if you wanted to. And you also choose the retention. You can retain till forever if that's what you want. The way that the pricing is structured, being that you pay per gig use, mean that you can do whatever schedule and retention policy that you so desire. It will only impact the amount of data that you use. Sort of a related question. I don't know if it's asked, but I'll answer it anyway. It does forever incremental. So basically, the first backup is full, and after that, it will go to incremental and only take the difference. So if you do every hour, for example, well, that backup every hour is going to be very small unless you have major change every hour. Retention review. So is there any way to view all backup clients through a single dashboard? There is now. So for people that have been there since the launch of the product in March, that was one feature that was lacking. It is now in place. So when you create as a partner, when you create an organization, you will also receive a partner level account. From that partner level account, you can see all of the organization that you create underneath it in Cumulus. That should probably be the subject of the next webinar. So from there, you'll be able to see all clients, all their history, the amount of data that they use, the number of devices that they have, things like that. You still need a login for each and every client because that's how you assign jobs to them. So when you install the agent, you need to log into one specific client, and that's how that client is associated to their account. Is there capability for customers to do their own restores with console? Absolutely. Both for Office 365 or anything else that you back up. So you have the ability to give access for a specific client, and even within that client, you could create specific users that are non-administrator, and then the person could manage each and every user can manage their own backup and restore their own files, but just have access to their own stuff. So if you're a bit more hands-off, or if your client's a bit more technical, for example, if you manage a more technical company, you could create a whole bunch of users, give everybody their user and manage their own account, manage their own restore, and then remove the burden on the management off of you. It is a less common model, I would say, amongst our partner, but still very much doable, not complicated at all. As I'm moving forward, is there any data verification at rest data in the cloud? So that's a good question. There are options to verify backups after they're done. That's part of the options that you can set on each and every job. So if you have clients that are a bit more sensitive about the security of the data, you could do that process as well. As far as regularly checking the data at rest, there isn't an option for that. What I recommend as part of best practice, or actually what best practice recommends, is that you test your restores regularly. A common saying in the backup world is that you don't have backup until you've tested them. So it's nice to send data into the cloud, but if you haven't tried that restore, it's a little bit like disaster recovery. You don't have a disaster recovery plan until you've run it. I would say it's the same for backup. I wholeheartedly recommend doing your backups and then testing the restore. And with the way that it's structured with our product, it's very easy to do that restore. If you want to do a full machine restore, you can do it to a different machine, so then you can not be disruptive to the people that are working and everything like that. It's very easy, very well supported. I recommend it strongly. Nothing worse than getting into an emergency situation to realize something is not exactly what you thought it was. That's a very bad thing, and that I've done many times. So let's be honest here. So our backups prioritize to local network first and then cloud secondary. Sort of. So what happens is when you create a job and the destination is not the cloud, whether it's local backups or network backups, you then have the option to, it's a single button, it's one option when you create the job. It's very easy to say, synchronize it to the second location that is the cloud. So basically what will happen is we'll do the local backup first, and when it's done executing, it will synchronize it to the cloud. So your question about prioritization, it's not so much prioritization as that one is after the other, literally. It will finish that local job, and then it will push that local job to the cloud according to the schedule that you give it. One nice thing, again, is you can have different schedules. You can have a let's say every 6 hours you do a local job, but only once a week you push it into the cloud, for example. I think I've gone through every question, and we're just about out of time. Very good questions, by the way, guys. I like to see the enthusiasm. Please do contact your rep if you have any questions, and they'll pass them along to me if there is anything else. For the people, there's a couple of questions I haven't gone to because they're a bit of a more specific and open-ended. We'll get back to you, or your rep will get back to you with the specifics. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Eric. Very insightful how you use your product in a very practical way. Have a nice day.